Congratulations to both of you on your nominations. Ms. Raskin, as you may know, the administration's infrastructure investment plan calls for reform of FERPTA to increase investment in the U.S. and create jobs. It's common sense in my mind, given the current economic circumstances, that we should remove barriers to foreign investment in the United States. It's a proposal that has gained broad bipartisan support here in the Senate. I want to thank the Chairman for including FERPTA reform as part of his discussion draft release. I raised this with Secretary Lew when he was here for his nomination, and he wasn't quite apprised of it. But I know that your predecessor, Mr. Wolin, has spent a fair amount of time on this. And so I'm going to ask you what I asked both of them, which is, if we all agree on the merits of reforming FERPTA, the President put it out there himself, which I believe we do, why do we not administratively begin the action by repealing the relevant parts of the 2007 IRS notice while Congress works on the issue? To use the President's words exactly, what are we waiting for?
Well, Senator Menendez, I know you have expressed strong interest in FERPTA. I have to say that in my current role at the Federal Reserve Board, I haven't had the opportunity to become very skilled in the nuances of FERPTA. I certainly share the goals that you have articulated regarding what its reform and amendments would do, and I look forward to working with you to
Well, can you commit to us to create some focused attention within the Department? Because the Secretary's got a big portfolio, right? I mean, my other role as Chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, he's got a whole bunch of seats on international financial institutions. I get it. He's got macroeconomics in the country. He's got a whole host of issues. But we need someone at the Department to follow through on what the President himself has said in his infrastructure plan is a critical element of trying to make sure that we get investment in the United States. And there is an administrative procedure, which I understand is revenue neutral, by invoking the repeal of that section of the IRS. So can I get from you at least a commitment that you'll create some focus in the Department? You're going to be the _2 person.
Absolutely, and I again, if I'm confirmed, I look forward to working with you and assuring that there is a focus on it. Yes.
All right. Now, something that you may have much more experience with in your role in the Federal Reserve Board, the Fed has authority to set capital requirements for insurance companies. For example, if they are a depository institution holding companies or non-bank systemically important financial institutions. And I support strong capital requirements and believe they're an important component of both safety and soundness and systemic risk regulation. But I have heard from a wide range of insurers about the Fed applying bank-specific capital requirements to them, despite the fact that many insurance companies have a very different business model and therefore and balance sheets and risk profiles from banks. So a one-size-fits-all seems to me to be a challenge, and of course the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which is chaired by the Treasury Secretary, has an important role to play in making sure that financial regulators are utilizing the right tools to regulate industries that might not be as familiar to them as institutions that have been historically regulated. So as you move from the Fed to the Treasury, I'd like to get your commitment to work with this body to make sure that capital standards applied to insurance companies are properly tailored, that we understand the difference in the business models, and that we don't apply a standard that it would be totally appropriate for banks, but in many insurance companies' cases would be totally inappropriate.
And Senator Menendez, that's exactly right. A one-size-fits-all approach is not going to work here. You're exactly dead on correct that that insurance companies have a very different set of asset liability structure than do banks, and to regulate them in terms of a one-size-fits-all approach is not going to be an effective form of supervision or regulation in my experience. So I think you are right about that. Fortunately, the Federal Reserve has not gone ahead and pushed towards regulating these designated insurance companies in such a way that they are treated identically to banks, and I think that that is a good thing. And I would go also so far as to say that the FSOC, which made the designations because particular insurance companies were deemed to be present a risk to financial stability. The FSOC itself has insurance expertise on it. I think 3 members of the FSOC can make good insights on questions of insurance structure, and so I think that is a good thing, and I think that that's going to work. And when these institutions are designated and become regulated and supervised by the Federal Reserve is going to have to look at them in a way that obviously regulates them for their financial stability concerns, but doesn't do it in a way that imposes a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I have one final question, quick question to Ms. Schmidtlein. Intellectual property rights.
Yes.
New Jersey, pharmaceutical capital of the nation and the world, medicine cabinet to the world, growing biotech sector, increasingly a high-tech sector, major trade publications by the Wiley Company, just to mention a few. So in the context of a national agenda in which intellectual property is, in essence, at the forefront of our competitiveness globally, we increasingly face countries, including countries that are quote-unquote allies, who with impunity violate those intellectual property rights. India is an example of it, and of course other countries, China and whatnot. I'd like to hear your views, if confirmed, on how you'll pursue when there are cases of intellectual property right violations at the Commission, what your position will be in terms of responding to it.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. I agree. This is a very important area and one that I intend to pay close attention to if I'm confirmed. I would commit that I intend to strictly enforce the laws when the evidence shows that one of our companies is facing unfair trade practices in the form of infringement of their intellectual property rights.